This episode is sponsored by Pet Matrix Premium Canine Supplements. Straight Up Dog Talk is super excited to be partnered with Pet Matrix. After exhausting several other pet supplemental brands, I am now seeing the results that I have always been searching for Toby and Fitz. Pet Matrix supports all three pillars of canine wellness using their cell matrix delivery. It delivers nutrition directly into the cell. If you're looking for a supplement that pairs with nature and science, look no further and get your dog on Pet Matrix today. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we're here with Josh as usual.
Hello.
And this week we have a very special guest. Jaime from Embracing Echo is with us today. How are you doing today, Jaime?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited for you to share your story. You recently had a reel that went extremely viral, and I think that you've been educating on your platform for a really long time, and now you're finally being seen. And I would like for you to share your story, like what led up to this and why you advocate so much for this particular disability and health issue, because I don't think that a lot of people understand what it's like to live with having seizures and having to worry about that. And then additionally, having a service dog and Echo and what he does for you and Everest and how they interact in your day-to-day life, and also traveling with them. You do a lot. So just take over the platform and share your story.
Okay, well, that is a load. I'll start with my birth. I was born with vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's genetically confirmed. Your connective tissue connects to all the parts of your body, and this can affect many different things, including any or all of your organs. For me, it affected a lot of neurological things as well as having vascular complications. So I have epilepsy as well. I was born with partial and absent seizures. Partial is the seizures that make you feel as if you are out of body. You can get headaches. You can get weird tingling in your neck. A lot of weird different symptoms can happen for different people, essentially. For absent seizures, I often look straight ahead to other people, and it's hard to explain what I do because I'm unresponsive for it. I have no idea what's happening during these moments, and it only lasts like maybe a minute. And so I didn't really know to advocate so much for it growing up, because I didn't have anyone to advocate for the diagnosis itself. And I had teachers who didn't understand what was going on, and my parents tried to explain it the best that they could. But I was often bullied for having that diagnosis in itself. And that was all because I didn't have an actual diagnosis at the time. But I did go when I was 1 to the doctor for these issues. And so the doctor was like, well, it looks like it could be absent seizures, but we'll see how it goes. And they never gave me an official diagnosis, so I was never advocated for growing up, and that caused a lot of issues. I had an EEG after my car accident that confirmed all 3 different types of seizures, the third being the one that I had after my car accident in 2019, and I started having uncontrollable amounts of them. My mom was in Missouri. She was helping my Nana, who has since passed. She was having a lot of strokes and neurological issues as well, so she couldn't come at the time, and my friends actually drove me to a new hospital where they treated me as a new patient and did all the tests that I should have had a while ago. So I had quite a few issues. I had my heart issues vaguely diagnosed at a young age. So I had all of these complications. And going back to getting bullied by teachers, I had to often stand up in front of the class and apologize for not paying attention because they thought that these seizures that I had no idea were happening were just me not paying attention on purpose. And so that was really hard because I felt invalidated. So a big part of why I advocate for it is because I was never validated as a child growing up because nobody paid attention enough or advocated enough for that specific part of my disability. They advocated for the heart issues because my mom had a dad who he passed away from heart issues. And since then, since my genetic confirmation of that condition, vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, my mom has since been diagnosed and my sister has also been diagnosed. So we now know that we have to look for aortic dissection and prolapses in organs, which my mom had, and all of these different types of emergencies that could happen from this diagnosis. We now know because of that confirmation diagnoses. So if somebody has seizures, I advocate for it so heavily because it's important to get it diagnosed and treated. 70% of the people who have epilepsy could have a positive outcome and not have seizures anymore if it was treated and diagnosed properly. And that comes from World of Health. So, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that if you had it treated early enough that it was something that could be cured. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah, as long as they stay on their medication, they don't typically ever have seizures anymore. And if the medication works, 70% is a big number, especially because 1 in 10 people have seizures.
That's also a big number. I mean, 1 in 10 people, that's a lot. I mean, I have a medical health issue as well, which is a Chiari malformation, and that's like 1 in every 250,000 people. So,
yeah,
1 in 10 is a lot larger percentage of the population. And it's kind of scary knowing that there's that many people out there that could potentially have seizures. And like you said, there's just not as many people advocating for it. So that makes what you're doing even more important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, when I posted that video, I knew that I looked weird. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, this is what I look like. It's really awkward to watch yourself back and know that you didn't give consent to your body to do those things in that moment, and then see your body doing all these things that you had no idea that they were doing. And that's what you look like when it happens in public. So awkward and a little mind-blowing in all the weird ways to see it. But I knew that it might help people because I never see people post about epilepsy or like post their seizure. Well, I know it looks weird.
I don't think that I had ever, until I stumbled across your account like a year or two ago, had ever seen anybody even really advocate for it. So why don't you walk us through what happened in that reel? Because I told you before when we were talking that, Echo does that thing where he gets up on top of the refrigerator and he perches up there, and it's just really cute. And initially I was like, oh, she's just posting another video of Echo being funny on top of the refrigerator. And then I was like, oh no, she's actually having a seizure. So can you just kind of walk everybody through what happened in that video and what Echo did for you?
Yeah, I wanted to take a video of Echo being on the fridge. That was the goal, but that's not really what happened. To an extent, it did. And I actually never taught him or had seen him jump from the fridge to the couch before until that moment. And I was having an aura, which essentially was only a couple seconds of me feeling very, very out of body and weird. And I knew something was happening, especially because in that moment, Echo started barking and I had little control over what my body was about to do or even doing in those couple of seconds. Echo barked because he was alerting. That's what he's taught to do. And usually that happens a lot sooner than what he gave, so that I can take rescue medication. And there's a couple of different kinds. Usually it's one that goes to the nose. However, if he gets it early enough, what was sitting close to him was the pill version of a rescue medication. And that's typically, I typically have enough time to take that and it works. It's Ativan. And sometimes at hospitals, that's what they'll give you too, to stop it. I try not to do the nasal one because it kind of burns. But if it stops in seizure, it stops in seizure. So when he jumped on top of me, because I have vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I chronic dislocations really easily. And if you're convulsing, your joints get pop out super easily as well. So he often sits on top of me during the convulsive seizures or even before, just in case, to make sure that those joints just don't dislocate. And that was something that he was taught.
And that seizure, it wasn't fast. I mean, obviously in a reel, you're only allowed to show a certain amount of time. I think it's like up to 90 seconds. But yeah, that seizure lasted a lot longer than that. How long was the seizure?
The seizure actually did last about that time. However, the after effects of a seizure are so long that the video lasted about 3 hours. And I've gotten that question a lot too. So the seizure itself shouldn't be more than 5 minutes, because if it is, you're heavily at risk for SUDEP, which is sudden and unexpected death in epilepsy. So it didn't last that long, but the after effects did affect me a lot. I usually, and from what I saw in the video, was very confused, uncoordinated. I looked not myself, almost in a vegetative state. Coming out of it. Somebody said that they gained all their senses back one at a time and they felt like they had woken up from passing away. And I think that's very relatable.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it would feel like. Like you said, you didn't give your body permission to do all of that, and you saw from the outside what it looks like to have happening to you. I'm sure that like being able to merge those two, the inside and the outside, is probably really a difficult thing to deal with. So right. I think it's really admirable that you're so willing to share it and advocate for it. So thank you for, helping us all understand it. Let's talk about Echo, because I know he's not your first service dog, but in a world where we don't have a lot of education on service dogs, you are a really great resource for this. So let's talk about, what are good ways to identify, what a service dog is, how a service dog should be trained, and just kind of the overall like expectations in a legitimate service dog should have.
Well, the biggest one is that they should be under control. No barking unless they're taught to bark in that specific instance, maybe the seizure, for example. But they should be under control, not peeking, not sniffing, not pulling, lunging, really just at your side, ready to task if needed. And they should be able to task for a disability. That's a big part too. That's 100% seizure. The dog should be able to at least give one task, and comforting is not a task. A lot of the time, I even hesitate on saying that deep pressure therapy alone is a good enough reason to have a service dog, because it's something that like a weighted blanket could almost do in some instances. And so I think that if you have a service dog, you really need one. And by ADA law, you have to have a disability that would benefit from a service dog, and that's important. So if a heated blanket were did the exact same thing, you're not really benefiting from a service dog.
A disability should be disability. Like it should cause debilitating issues in your life for it to actually be considered a disability. And there are many, many levels of disabilities. As somebody who struggles with, medical conditions and is legally disabled, it's really hard to explain that to people, because people look at you and they think that you're just normal and that you're fine, but they don't, you can't see what's happening inside the body all the time. And that's what makes it so important. And unfortunately, I think that's where like the service dogs kind of get abused in this situation, because people could have an emotional support animal that knows how to do the deep pressure therapy versus having what they would say is a service dog, where like you have an active service dog for a medical need, which is seizures, to hopefully stop your seizures. Or somebody could need one for, psychiatric reasons or all kinds of things. So besides the two, like obviously we know that Echo can bring you your medications and he can do the deep pressure therapy on you. Are there other things that he can do as well?
Yeah, he does POTS alert, partial orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, reminding me to actually sit down because although I have presyncopial symptoms, like I'll get dizzy, for example, and I have a lot of dysautonomia, all of the autonomic functions in the body kind of go disarray, and I'll get really, really hot and dizzy, and I'll have brain fog. But Echo is there in that sense. And I think that if this was alone the only thing that he was doing, I wouldn't have him. But because this is just one aspect of the many things that he helps with, it's helpful. He reminds me to sit down, and he will be very persistent about that, because I'm definitely the type of person who will push through as much as I can until I am flat on the floor. And that is not good. So he definitely tells me to sit down. He knows cortisol alert, so intense panic. He actually was taught not to just do an alert when he felt a little bit of anxiety. All of our samples were high anxiety moments, so he often only alerts during those high anxiety moments. And having all of these conditions alone in public can cause a lot of panic in itself, especially if you have obligations and responsibilities. So he does a lot. He does a lot.
He does do a lot. And I mean, I think that right there just should show people that a service dog is multifunctional. A service dog doesn't necessarily just do one thing. They usually do multiple things, and they have a pretty good array of tasks that they should be able to perform. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of rules and regulations about this, but there are some things that you can do if you're preparing a service dog to be tasked that are, generally pretty informed by people who help train service dogs, which is you do that. So can you tell people a little bit about the Canine Good Citizen test and the temperament testing?
Yeah. So I actually just had a meeting about evaluating for this. So this is the perfect prediction to have. So the Canine Good Citizen is a test for AKC, and it's often what a lot of service dog trainers go off of at first for puppies to become service dogs in the future. Because if you can pass a Canine Good Citizen test, you're probably more likely to be able to behave in public situations. And so the Canine Good Citizen is things like sitting away from the handler, being pet, being able to be touched for, vet situations or grooming situations. Very simple stuff, walking on a loose leash. So eventually, when you move up the CGC chain, as some will say, there's different types of CGC, and some are in the community, and some are urban CGC, which means that they have to deal with traffic now, and they have to deal with large crowds now. The beginning CGC, you kind of get an artificial crowd. And then when you get to urban CGCs, you have this real life crowd. And you have to be able to give the dog the space and knowledge to be able to handle things in all situations. And not every dog can do that really well, especially if you just kind of slap a service dog rest on them and say, there you go, we're putting you out there. The CGCs are a really good outline for dogs in general in those kind of situations. And really any dog can do a CGC and it'd be great.
That's one of my personal just pet peeves is I just looked up on Amazon how much it would cost just to order a service dog vest. The first result that pops up is a no-pull dog harness for a service dog.
Right.
You have a service dog, it shouldn't be pulling.
This is true.
Service dogs should not be pulling. What about transportation? I know that there's a little bit of like a test that you can have your dog tested to see if they're good with transportation, but I don't remember if I saw that on the ADA page or if I saw that on the AKC page, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So could you explain that?
Yeah, so CGCs actually have an outline, and I believe it's a community, but I could be wrong. I need to go look at my pamphlet again. But they do have a test where you have to use some type of transportation. They also have a stair or elevator portion of the test. So these are all really helpful things, or a good outline before you just drag your puppy or dog somewhere that they're not ready for sure.
100%. What do you think the most important thing to identify in a service dog is? Like if you're training a dog and it gets through, the CGC program successfully, but then after that, like what is the thing that makes you know that the dog is going to be okay, or you use the term washed when we were speaking before. So can you explain the difference between like where that pivot point is?
Yeah, so many things could make a dog wash, essentially. And it could start really, really young, or you could find out when they're older, they have this thing that is going to make them not this. And sometimes it's as simple as they have some type of sickness, and it wouldn't be fair to make them work because they have this sickness. Something I saw that baffled me the other day is a service dog with seizures. And I was like, I know what they're like, and I know the aftermath of that. And I would never, ever take a dog with a disability and make them a service dog, because that's not fair to them.
No, I don't think that's fair either.
I had a Yorkie with my first pet, my first dog had.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, wow. That's shocking.
Yeah, it really is. So that's one of them. And then another reason another dog might wash is just being reactive or not being able to handle something in certain environments. So a dog could essentially be great at home, but when they go to the dog park, if they can't pay attention in the presence of another dog, then they should not be able to pass, because you're going to see other service dogs. There's plenty of pets that aren't supposed to be out there at Walmart or Publix or somewhere like that. But they need to be able to work in the presence of a lot of distractions, which is the reason why they are considered so highly trained, because they can do all these things amongst multiple environments. It's one thing for a dog to be able to do all these things at home. It's another thing for them to be able to do it in every single environment, because things are black and white for dogs, meaning that they have to practice these things in every environment for you to know that they can do it or practice them until they get it in every environment. And sometimes they won't. And that essentially could be another reason why they watch.
What about like bite records? Like a service dog cannot have a bite record, can they?
No, not at all. It's actually in the ADA.
Oh, okay. I did not know.
It's under one of the subtexts.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a link that we will share. We will share the AKC Good Canine link.
Canine Good Citizen.
Yeah, Canine Good Citizen. Thank you. I was like, oh crap, I can't remember what it was. And then we'll share the Good Citizen link, which is the one that I usually share. It's just a 101. But the ADA also has some really good information. But I mean, I think that being able to kind of just talk about this and share this kind of information is really important, because like I said before, there are a lot of people out there that just, are say, this is my service dog, but they don't have any idea what that really actually means. And there are service dog trainers, people that specialize in this out there. And Jaime is one of them. So when you said that you recommend people do a temperament testing with the breeder. Can you explain that a little bit as well? Because I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, so the Volhard test is what I'm speaking about. And typically it's done with the puppies, with the breeder. Sometimes the breeder has their own temperament tester, and sometimes you can have your trainer who's temperament test certified. They actually have it through APC too, to do temperament testing with the puppy. And that just means it's very simple. It's not like your dog has to naturally know all these things from birth. It's how well they receive the world and respond to it without reacting harshly, without getting upset, without feeling fearful around the world naturally. And some of those things are actually behaviors that dogs can be born with in a better way than others. Some dogs, typically golden retrievers, they naturally are just so mellow and chill. And then also and then another part of the test is, do they have the energy and confidence to go up? And that's where some golden retrievers don't always make it. And they're like, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to go over there. But curiosity is also part of the test.
I think that, knowing these things is just, this is a lot more information than we've had on previous issues in regards to service dogs. And I just think that there is so much out there that people don't know about service dogs. If there was one thing that you could really hit the nail on the head to inform people about service dogs and what to do when it comes to training a service dog, what would that be?
Training does not consist of task training right away. And I think that's something that a lot of people get confused. I get a lot of emails or messages. Can you just task train my dog? If your dog is not able to be a good problem solver beforehand, they're not going to be able to learn the task. The task train is the easy part. What's hard is then having the manners and the capability of responding well to environmental stimuli and human behaviors. Not all dogs can feel somebody's anxiety and think, wow, I'm going to respond to this in a positive manner. And so that's something that has to be taught. So if we want to task train, for example, a psychiatric dog, we have to make sure that they can respond appropriately first and positively to somebody's anxiety and be proactive instead of make it worse. And sometimes dogs have that issue where they have so much anxiety themselves that once they see that their handler has anxiety, they can't really respond correctly. And so the first thing that we teach in training for a little tiny baby is how to have good problem solving skills. So we'll shape a lot of things. We will give different types of communication inference to the dog so that they learn how to problem solve without being shown every time, and they can learn things faster. And then task train is the easy part. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As far as, what breeds people should pick for service dogs and, what I know that, genetically there are some dogs that are better suited for it. And I know that there are mutts and people pull dogs from the shelters and, they rehabilitate them and train them to be service dogs. But in your opinion, what do you think are the most well-known other than the golden retriever? Because obviously we know there's a lot of golden retriever service dogs out there. But what, in your opinion, what do you think breed-wise is a good breed fit for service dogs?
The one I actually see more than golden retrievers are labs. And from a very young age, I was raised into training labs. My extended family trained them for service work and therapy dog work. So I was around labs a lot, and they are awesome dogs. However, I think that golden retrievers and labs have a very specific personality. They're also not exactly the same. And labs can be a little bit more straightforward about where and when and how they do something, whereas golden retrievers, they can be a little bit they'll around and get to the point you need them to get when you're training them, and then they become reliable when they finally get it. But they're definitely two different dogs. A good breed that I actually see a lot are poodles, and that it's surprising to some people because it's a poodle and they look the way that they do, but they make really great service dogs. Another one, and it depends on the disability and then the things that you need too, because for things like seizures, I would recommend a higher drive dog if you can handle it. And if you have a great trainer to help you through that process, and it is a lot of work. I'm going to preface by saying that, especially high drive dogs. But Australian Shepherds and Border Collies, they can be a lot. But if you are experienced and you can handle it, and you have a great trainer on your side and some good mentors, all of the things, then I think that they're great. And because they're so driven and they need to be mentally challenged so often that they're constantly on the lookout for something to do and a problem to solve, which brings me back to good problem-solving skills. Dog has good problem-solving skills are way more reliable with task training because they're constantly on the lookout for a problem to solve. And so Australian Shepherds are really fast about doing that. So are Border Collies, breeding dogs. German Shepherds can also be really fast at doing that. And it just really depends on what you can handle. German Shepherds are a little bit bigger. So if you need something bigger, that's wonderful. If you need something smaller, then, look at other options. But there's so many different parts to that question.
Absolutely. I love that you brought up poodles, because I think that poodles are underrated. I mean, especially because they come in a range of sizes, first of all. And second of all, I mean, they're hunters, like they're game dogs. And most people don't know that about poodles. They're also very intelligent.
Extremely intelligent.
And they often come off as, to me, they come off as just kind of like, aristocratic dogs. Like, they're fancy with their haircuts and it's the look, right? But they're actually very, very interested in things, and they're very, very smart. And so I could see how they would be really good at performing tasks. And high drive dogs, like I have a high drive dog who's very interested in doing things all of the time. He would never pass the canine good citizen test. So we do tricks instead because he likes to learn that kind of stuff. So high drive dogs also make sense to me because they want to be involved. They want to be by your side, and they do funny things like Echo getting on top of the refrigerator and creative. I mean, that's the being able to jump up on top of the refrigerator like that and then jump to you on the couch. I mean, the athleticism is really important too, I think, in a service dog.
Yeah, definitely. I give him a lot of space to be himself. And I think that's also important because if I shut him down, even though the tiniest bit, he is the type of breed and dog that would push back just a little bit, just to find that loophole, just to, see how far he can get away with things. And so if I teach him the right way to do all the things he loves and make that a task or that something that he needs to do, it helps him become himself while also loving to work at the same time.
This is the time in the show where I point out that I'm not on Instagram and I have no idea what breed this dog is.
He's an Australian Shepherd.
Thank you.
He's a beautiful Australian Shepherd.
No.
Not
that. Your fault.
No. He's an Australian Shepherd. He's beautiful Australian Shepherd, and he's just beautiful. He's got quite the personality too.
Yeah, because I've heard
that's a much different visual knowing it's an Australian Shepherd that I was having. I was thinking like 10 to 12 pound dog getting on top of the fridge. No. This is an Australian Shepherd.
Yeah, this is, probably, 60 pounds?
65 pounds, yeah, about 60, maybe 62.
Okay. And what you just said there, too, I think is really important about the dog having fun. Because it can't be like work. A service dog is a service dog, and it is trained to do services for its handler. But the service dog should enjoy its job. Like, it shouldn't just be there, not liking what it's doing. And you obviously make it very fun for him. I mean, I don't know how many people I've ever seen allow their dog on top of the refrigerator, but I just love it. So I think that's really good that you incorporate, you make sure that he has joy and that he has time to relax. Another thing, if you guys are not following Jaime on Instagram, you should be, because Echo and her daughter have a very special relationship too. And they climb into cupboards and little crevices, areas on their dining room table and take naps together in these tiny little spaces. And it's just so freaking cute that there was the one that you did not that long ago where you couldn't find them because they weren't in their normal cupboard and they were under the kitchen table. And he said, I don't even know how they got in there. They got in there.
Yeah, they are like little worms, and they just find the weirdest places to sleep, I guess. They are definitely cuddle bugs, though, and oftentimes she will hop into Echo's bed instead of our bed at night because she would rather sleep there. And we have to be like, okay, no, we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to sleep in the actual bed for humans. And she would much rather sleep with him because she knows that he's there. I think she just has that special bond with him right now. And he's just eating it up because that's just him.
At least. I think that it is like amazing that you incorporate him into so much of the rest of your life too, right? Because obviously he needs to be there for your health reasons, but you let him have his relationship with your daughter and you let him be involved in the activities that you do. When you went out in the boat the other day and you did the reel of him not helping you row the boat, like just really cute things like that just show how much you appreciate him and how much you love him. What is your favorite thing to do with Echo when he's not working?
Oh my goodness. Well, my actual answer is actually a bit embarrassing because it's not really doing anything. It's just laying with him. I really enjoy training him because he's such a unique dog and a smart dog that he surprises me every single time we train. And it's usually in ways that I was not expecting. He will, for example, and this shouldn't be as impressive, but it was impressive to me because I was like, how did you think to even, do that? A few years ago, he was about 1. We were at a training class for the first time, one of his training classes. She had been in other classes before with a new teacher. And we were doing exercises. And he was still very young. He was still in his velociraptor phase of puppyhood. And he was really excited to do these exercises. And after he finished, he would look at me with intent. And one of the times, the trainer of my class, because every trainer should have trainers, the trainer of my class was working with him hands-on. And she was like, okay, I'm going to demonstrate with Echo because he's doing really well. I was like, oh gosh, I do things very specifically because I know him. And she finished the exercise with him and he did really great. But at the end, he went up to her and took the treat out of her hand from a very large distance because he said, okay, I finished it. I know how this works. I'm going to take it. And I was like, how did you even think to take it? I was more impressed than I was upset with him because I was just so surprised that the dog would even think, oh my goodness, after this, I know I get a treat and I remembered this pattern and I'm going to take the treat because she's taking too long to give it to me. And usually it's about 3 to 4 seconds, not 10 to 12 while she's. And so little things like that, he always surprises me. It's not always in a negative way, like in that situation might have been seen as more negative, but it's usually in a very surprising way that I wasn't expecting. And I love that about Australian Shepherds and Bernese breeds, that they can really outsmart you. And I like being outsmarted because it teaches me something about dogs.
I love that. And I love that you love learning. And I love that you are so open about helping others. And you and I have talked previously, and I hope that you don't mind me sharing this on the podcast, but Jaime did agree to mentor me. And so I'm going to be working with Jaime and learning more about service dogs and how to train them and just training in general, because having really strong mentors is really important to me. And obviously, you know that I work with Jerry and Madison. Josh knows that. And we've talked about it too, but Jaime is also, I think, a really stellar example, and she's on a totally different end of the spectrum. And I am really, really excited to work with you and learn from you. I think it's, like you said, it's so important to be surprised and to learn something from being surprised. And so I can't wait to see what you teach me and where we go from here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really learn more from teaching because of the questions that I get. I'm like, oh, that's a unique question. So if you have anything to say, feel free to pop it out. I know that's not part of the podcast or anything.
No, I mean, I think that that's great. And I think that that's a great invitation for the listeners too, because Jaime is incredible about checking her DMs. I don't know how you do it. You are so responsive. When you agreed to be on the podcast, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe she even responded to me because I'm just this little dinky account. And, you know, you probably had over 100K followers at that point, and now you have close to 500,000. And I just love to see you thriving because you're doing such positive things for this community. And we really need people who are coming in with that education tool to help each other, because
thank you.
It's not the same for everybody, you know, and we have to be able to look at situations and people and dogs with an open mind. And I really think that you do that. And I just really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I would cry, but I don't want to on a podcast.
Well, is there anything that you would like to say, just kind of in summation, that you think is really important for the listeners to know before we wrap up tonight?
Always be open to learning something new. And the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. I think that's my biggest thing. I learn more and more every single time I go to the club, every time I go to a meeting, an event, a speaking event, or something similar at dog club or at a conference. And the more I hear people talk, the more I'm like, wow, I know absolutely nothing, and I probably will for the rest of my life. So yeah, be open to learning new things, no matter how much you learn and, you know, get all your certifications. It's important to keep learning. That you're helping a client, you're helping a dog in training, you're helping yourself if you have a service dog. And the more that you're open to learning something new, even if it's from somebody who has no certification, nothing that on paper would seem like something that you would learn, you are going to learn something. And that's important to know and understand and be open to.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, thank you for making this episode like very neutral as far as, you know, training and methods of training and all of that kind of stuff, because I feel like there's a lot of friction in that area right now. And, you know, again, we'll go back to our tagline, every dog is different and every owner is too. And different methods work for different people and dogs. And you have to be open to, you know, understanding what those methods are and how they work and how they affect the dog, especially a working dog. So I think that you have a really excellent approach. You go, you know, very open-minded into each situation, and you assess the dog and you start with its strengths and move forward from there. So
yeah,
again, I'm so much looking forward to working with you, and I cannot wait to share this episode with everyone. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored to speak with you guys today.
Well, thank you. We're honored to have you here. So we're going to wrap up for tonight. And again, we really appreciate you for being here, Jaime, and we will see you guys next week on Straight Up Dog Talk.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.